Hello and welcome to the Envirotech Online podcast. Back again, we're here to explore the policies, technologies and trends shaping the future of environmental monitoring. As always, I'm Jed Thomas, editor of Envirotech Online.
And as always, I'm Alan Booth, senior editor at ILM Media. And today we're diving into the regulatory churn that's hitting the UK water sector and what it all means for monitoring professionals.
Okay, so there are two major developments on the table. The EU's recast Drinking Water Directive, which comes into force in January 2026, and the UK's new Independent Water Commission report, which is proposing a sweeping overhaul of how water is managed, regulated and monitored in the UK.
But hang on, we don't export any water, so doesn't Brexit mean that the UK doesn't have to follow the EU's Drinking Water Directive now?
Technically, no, but that doesn't mean it's irrelevant. Scotland and Northern Ireland are already aligning with the new rules. England and Wales, they're trailing behind. And while Westminster isn't obliged to comply, the DWD is now shaping expectations around PFAS, lead, haloacetic acids, and risk-based water management.
So what does the new directive from the EU actually require?
It tightens parametric limits for known contaminants like lead and sets new ones for things like PFAS and haloacetic acids. It also brings in harmonised testing standards for materials like pipes and coatings and calls for source-to-tap risk-based management of water systems.
And where does the UK currently stand on all of this?
So we'll start with PFAS, which has become a chemical of prime concern in recent years. The EU's new limit is 0.1 micrograms per litre, but England and Wales are still working with a three-tier guidance system, not a legal limit. In 2024, over 770,000 PFAS samples were analysed, and while the majority were under detection thresholds, there were no Tier 3 failures. But campaigners say the absence of a binding standard leaves a regulatory vacuum.
And what about treatment? Surely we do need technology to get PFAS out of the water?
Exactly, but at the moment there is a bottleneck. According to Affinity Water, no UK lab is currently certified to perform Regulation 31 tests. The approvals required to validate new treatment products of this type. That means even if PFAS removal media exists, it can't be deployed legally in England and Wales. Meanwhile, the EU is building a network of accredited labs. We're not.
And what about the lead?
So the advisory group convened by the Drinking Water Inspectorate wants to halve the lead limit to 5 micrograms per litre and launch a national pipe replacement strategy. But that's not just a regulation issue, it's a whole infrastructure and workforce challenge. All the plumbers and funding streams and logistics that we'll need. It's a massive job to sort that out.
Okay, let's just change gears for a moment. What's the story with this new Water Commission?
Yeah, so this is the other big shift. The Commission is tweaking governance and proposing a wholesale reset of how monitoring is conducted and how data is used. A unified regulator for the whole industry with year-round oversight that blends engineering, finance and environmental concerns.
So what would that look like in practice?
It means company-specific teams reviewing monitoring data across the board. That's assets, permits, supply, lab results, not in silos, but one joined-up system. If your performance and asset condition data don't reconcile, that's a red flag for the regulator.
Sounds like it's about to get a lot more real time.
Exactly. The Commission calls for a reformed monitoring regime based on automation, third-party assurance and public transparency. That means operator self-monitoring, or OSM as we know it, is on the way out. We're talking more live instrumentation, expanded sampling windows, independent attestations and sharper inspections.
And where's that monitoring agenda being set from?
So that would be set by the regional system planners, 8 in England, 1 for Wales. They'll direct funding, set pollution targets and drive monitoring campaigns, especially around recreational use and public health exposure. That means more testing for pathogens, event-based sampling and clear apportionment between water companies and other sources.
Okay, so more parameters, more scrutiny, but what about capacity?
Well, that's the issue that no one's really talking about at the moment, but it's going to become a massive problem soon. The UK has no accredited labs for several of these new material and chemical tests. PFAS, pipe coatings, haloacetic acids, if you can't certify them, you can't use them. We're staring down a crisis of capacity unless lab infrastructure is built out fast.
So where does that leave monitoring professionals now?
Well, with a lot to prepare for, that's for sure. Here's the to-do list from my perspective. Firstly, audit your OSM stack. Know where every sensor, permit and calculation lives. Then I think it's good to broaden your parameters, start to build roadmaps for PFAS, microplastics, pathogen indicators, usage exposure at high value recreational sites. Then I think you need to harden your asset data. That means digital maps, condition baselines, resilience testing. Then I'd say what you need to do is align your data pipelines. Quality, environment and finance data must now reconcile into a supervisory grade model. And then lastly, we need to be getting ready for public health grade monitoring. Co-design with directors of public health, measure behavioural exposure, not just ecology.
Well, that's a pretty big overhaul.
It's a massive overhaul, but the direction is clear. Whether it's a DWD or the Water Commission's proposals, the old model of compliance through paperwork is dying. What's replacing it is real-time joined up and publicly scrutinised data.
So for instrumentation providers, consultants and lab professionals, this is both a challenge and an opportunity.
Exactly. There will be a massive demand for PFAS testing kits, high sensitivity lead monitors, low leakage piping and digital platforms that provide auditable, tamper-proof telemetry.
And if you confuse lab data, asset health, exposure science and regional risk into a clear, actionable narrative, you'll not only stay compliant, but you'll shape the next price review.
Exactly. This is the moment where monitoring becomes strategic. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, join us at www.envirotechonline.com. We've got expert briefings, technical guides, and sector insights to help you get prepared.
And of course, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an update.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Cheers, Jed. Goodbye from me.